Okay, so moving off and stopping. This is something that already your students got information overload. They've, you know, they've got in the car. They've already now learnt the cockpit drill, how to set the car up to their sort of specification and be comfy. They've now learnt about the controls of the car, what the handbrake does, the gear stick, the clutch, brake and accelerator, the steering wheel, the signals, you know, learning how to adjust the mirrors. So already they've already got a bit of information in there, which they're still probably trying to digest. So it's important when we're sort of explaining moving off and stopping from the side of the road, which is a really important part of the learning. You know, we've got to not necessarily be concise with it, but just try and keep them engaged and make sure that they're still sort of paying attention and they're actually learning something. And the best way to do that is to just sort of ask questions and see what they know, and things like that. Would you agree?
Yep, it's always better to ask questions to get their understanding of things and what they've watched or what they've seen.
Yeah.
Even though they are a 17-year-old, and some 17-year-olds struggle with expressing themselves and answering questions, you can still get some kind of a response from them. Like, have you watched your parents drive?
Yeah.
Have you watched any friends drive? How do they do it?
Yeah.
Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, just transferring that skill over. They'd be surprised. I think sometimes they surprise themselves with actually how much they know.
Yes.
You know, when you start talking about blind spots, you know, I get quite a lot. Have you ever heard of a blind spot? And they go, oh yeah, you know, it's I look over my shoulder. You know, they kind of know what it is. Sometimes they don't actually know what it's for,
yeah,
but they know what it is. So already you're ahead there because, you know, they know something. So moving off and stopping then is something that I've actually read somewhere that it's actually one of the single biggest causes of sort of minor accidents on the roads moving off, because people just sort of take it, I won't say take it for granted, but, you know, especially if you've been driving a long time or you're in an area that you know quite well, whether it's outside your front house, you know, front of your house or whatever, and, you know, they just sort of go clutch down first gear and they just sort of go whoop, and drive off and don't actually pay attention to their surroundings, and they'll move off and, you know, smack into the side of a car or something that's, you know, you're probably usually not there. So that's what I do. I sort of explain why it's important. And also on your driving test, how many times did they pull you up on the left and get you to drive off?
Compare
4 or 5 times.
Yes.
You know, just randomly, they just say pull up on the left, somewhere safe. And then they say, thank you very much, please drive on when you're ready. And then, you know, when you think, well, blooming hell, you've done that. You know, but they're just getting to sort of, you know, showing that you know how to do it safely. So one of the important things that you can have when you're doing a lesson plan and trying to sort of get through to somebody what you're trying to explain, it's always good to have a visual aid. This is one that I've got on my iPad, and when I've shared it amongst a lot of our other driving instructors. You can print it out and have it in a folder. This one's from ADI Ninja. If I remember, I'll put a link to it on the website in the description section of the video. But it's really nice, you know, it's quite simple, straightforward, and I like using the iPad because you can draw on it as well. You can use your finger or a pen, and you can start sort of explaining things. So one thing that you're going to mention then is POM, P-O-M, prepare, observe and maneuver. And you've already done the first bit with them, so already they know a little bit about this. So it's clutch down, first gear, set the gas, find the biting point. So now they've prepared the car and they're ready with the hand on their handbrake ready. And then observations, so that's where you're going to sort of explain to them what observations we have to do and why we do them. I call it a 6-point check.
Six-point check.
Yeah.
Some people only do a 5-point check.
Yeah.
Some people don't even do a left side check at all.
Yeah.
It's all about how I was taught and how you was taught.
Yeah.
But I like the way that we do the 6-point check, because we're looking on our left hand side first to see, as I was told, for those pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah.
So we know what's there, because sometimes if we just look on our left mirror or just looking straight in front of us, you're not going to see those things on our left hand side. And as there is an increasing number of people on electric scooters and mobility scooters,
Electric bikes,
and you can't hear them, and they just appear. So if you don't start your checks properly, from what whether I was taught and whether I continue to teach, is we always start from our left-hand side first, getting all that information.
Yeah. So when we say the 6-point check, there's 6 points to look at. So that's over your left shoulder 1, your left mirror 2, your centre mirror 3, straight ahead 4, which I kind of say you can sort of do together.
Yes.
Your right mirror 5, and over your right shoulder 6. Okay. I sometimes say to my students, to sort of get the idea of the blind spot, I say, right, can you see that tree in your blind spot? Yes. Now look in that mirror, can you see that tree? No. Well, just imagine that tree would then be a pedestrian or a runner or something that's going to be coming from that side, and if you're not looking, you're not going to see it. Let's get this back up. So that's the observation point of it. In fact, this is actually telling you to do a 5-point check.
It is, yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I've only just spotted that. I've never ever spotted that before.
Don't know.
5-point check is fine if you want to teach that, but we teach 6-point check. Okay. And then you've got the manoeuvre side of it. So we've already done P and O. So the M is release your handbrake, gently bring the clutch up, increase the gas, move away from the curb, and also it's good to just have another little check in your centre and right mirror, just to make sure that as you've checked your blind spot and you've moved off, that there is nothing else coming to try and overtake you. You don't want to be moving off and building up speed whilst there's another car trying to come round and overtake you. Anything to add to that? Signal if necessary, should we talk about that?
Yeah.
I teach my guys to just signal anyway.
I will say if it's necessary.
But the highway code does state that you can, when you're moving off or pulling up on the left, you only signal if it's necessary. So there's nobody around. For example, like now,
there's nobody to benefit from it. So
there's no one's going to benefit from it. Yeah. So
but
I get
you will
that.
always indicate at junctions, which is what some people forget.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So that's why I say it's just a good habit. Just do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Just signal anyway, because you never know. You never know.
So that your visual aid there is saying about setting the accelerator pedal after you've got your biting point, which is fine.
Here or here? Here.
Yeah. Push down.
Yeah. Set the gas.
Set the gas, then the biting point.
Petrol car.
Yes. But with diesel cars, it's different. For the first time, if you don't want to drive too fast with a diesel car, you don't even need to use the accelerator pedal. No. I always say, first time, you don't need to use it because the car will drive itself.
Yeah.
But with petrol cars, yes. The thing is, the way that I see it, if you put your accelerator pedal on first, then find your biting point, you're not always going to hear the engine. Whereas if you get your biting point first, you're going to hear the engine noise, then you're going to use your accelerator pedal to change that engine noise, which is the same as what you would do for hill starts. But
do you also use the sort of looking at the raise of the car a little bit at the front?
Yes. So the car will raise at the front, the car will dip at the back.
Yeah.
That is telling you the car is ready to go. The engine noise is going to be a deeper rumble. So you can, again, there's another thing that you can discuss about the change of engine noise.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's two camps for the use of the accelerator pedal first and then the biting point.
Yeah. Okay, and then we look at pulling up on the left. So this is just as important as moving off in terms of safety. So this is where you would now start to introduce MSPSL or mirror signal maneuver. Similar thing. PSL is the maneuver side aspect of it. On this visual aid, the arrows are going up because that is the direction that on this picture that the car is travelling. So we're the yellow car. If we follow MSPSL, you don't have to say it out in your head all the time, but if you get that routine, drilled down into your head to do it every time, there's no reason why you should be making a mistake. There's no reason why you should be forgetting the mirrors or the signal or the position or the speed or looking. So the first thing we're going to look at is look. We're going to do it in this way because what you want to do is find somewhere which is safe, convenient and legal place to park, which is SCALP. So what you want to do is teach your students, well, firstly, ask them, do you know where you shouldn't park? If I was to ask you to pull up on the left and there was double yellow lines, should you park on them? No. Should you park on single yellow lines? No, depending on what time it is. Should you park on white zigzag lines? They might not even know, so that's sometimes a good time to ask them a question. What do these white zigzag lines mean? It means that there's a pedestrian crossing nearby. Can you park close to or opposite a junction? Well, no, if they've been doing their theory, they should know that. Can you just park on bus stops? No.
Sharp bends. Brow of hills.
Yeah, and driveways. This is a question that I get asked quite a lot.
Yes.
Can we stop on a driveway? So I say you can stop on a driveway to drop someone off, or if it's their own driveway.
Yeah.
But to actually park your car on a driveway entrance and walk away with your car locked, it's not legal, is it?
No.
It's not legal. If it's a dropped curb, it's not legal. If someone's made their own driveway but there's no drop curb, let's say they've took their fence out,
Yeah.
and they've stoned all their garden to turn it into a driveway, but there's no drop curb, I saw this on telly the other day, then it's not an offence.
Yeah.
But if there's a dropped curb, then there is.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, look, assess, decide and act. So once they've checked their mirrors and the signals, you know, obviously they're going to be slowing down and getting into position. They want to be looking at where they could be pulling up on the left. And what's a good thing to do is teach them sort of a reference point as to not get too close or too far away from the curb. At some point your wheels are going to get scuffed. It's inevitable. It's a whole part of the job, unfortunately. And at some point students will probably park so far away from the curb they're probably going to need a taxi to get back to it. So what you want to do is I teach them a reference point. I've got a black square there that sort of holds dash down at the back.
Yeah.
I tend to sort of get them to line that up with the path or the curb.
Yes.
You know, everyone's different, obviously.
Yeah.
The perception's different,
Yes.
but they have something to sort of use, and then eventually they don't even need it. They just know.
Yes.
I've also got little mirrors on my little blind spot mirrors on my wing mirrors, so that also helps them as well.
But you can also, when it comes to them setting off, you can tell them, if they think of a clock face, you can tell them to turn 10 minutes to the right,
Yeah.
5 minutes to the left to get them in that driving position.
Yeah.
For stopping on the left-hand side, you can say 10 minutes to your left, 5 minutes to your right, straighten it back up and get them in that parked position. But again, it's about you judging them, helping them judge that space between the car and the curb. Because like I said, sometimes they will hit the curb, they'll scuff it. Other times they'll park a mile away, where they'll need a bus fare and a taxi.
In terms of marking on a driving test, I tend to, instead of sort of scuffing, I say kissing the curb. It's marked as nothing, is it really?
No.
Scuff of the curb.
No.
It's whether you actually sort of hit it or mount it.
That's where it becomes.
That's where it becomes a bit more serious on the driving test.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not saying a kiss of the curb's fine. Avoid it, but you know, because we all know what a kiss can lead to. A knock on the curb. So yeah, just try and get them into a good position. So MSPSL, mirror, signal, position, speed and look, and it's a really good time to introduce that, because when you come onto emerging left and emerging right and turning right, we use MSPSL, and when we do roundabouts we use MSPSL.
When we're dealing with parked cars, still MSPSL.
Everything, because the M stands for mirrors, and we should be checking mirrors before everything. A mirror check should always be the first thing that we do, unless it's an emergency stop. It's the only sort of thing you are ever asked to carry out, and it doesn't involve checking the mirrors first. Anything to add on moving off, Nick? And pulling up on the left?
It's just about the curb aspect.
Yeah.
So when it comes to you being... Oh no, it's not that, is it?
This is...
Stationary. Yeah, so when it comes to you being stationary,
yeah,
it sometimes is better to get them to look out that windscreen first to see where that curb is in relation to that windscreen, because that's where they're looking out of. So then when they've moved out, you can get them again to look at that windscreen for that where the curb is in relation to the windscreen. When it comes to them stopping, some learner drivers start to use that mirror all the time. If they start to use that mirror, get them to stop it straight away, because
the front end comes in and the back end doesn't.
Yes, which I've had quite a few recently where they're staring in it. I'll say, stop to stare, and they go, okay. The back end is really close to the curb, but the front end is kissing that curb. So if you carry on now, you are going to go up that curb. And I go, but the back end. Yes, exactly, the back end. So these are the things.
They understand that they need to actually turn the car to the right.
Yes.
Once the front end's in to get the back end in.
Yes. So it's about you being aware of all that, which is why we can look at things like reference points.
And I'm not sure if you noticed this as well, but like throughout the whole learner driver's learning path, you know, from beginning to test day,
yes,
I still find pulling up on the left and moving off is one of the things, you know, that they're sometimes sort of not necessarily struggling with, but often just forget.
I forget, yes.
You know, they've had 40 plus hours worth of training, and you've been doing roundabouts and dual carriageways and slip roads and parallel parks and all this stuff really, really well. And then all of a sudden you ask them to pull up on the left, you talk about something, you get them to move off, and they just forget to do the blind spot. And you think it's literally day one stuff.
It is, yes.
So, you know, it's always a good idea to just always be on the ball and just make sure that, you know, it's always there, because it could save their life one day, couldn't it?
Absolutely.
Another road users.
Yes.
Yeah, if you've got anything else that you think might be vital to add to that, put it in the comment section. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one. All right.
All right. Thanks.